What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer, and welcome back to another quick Overwatch news update. Last night we got an update to the Overwatch PTR featuring the new nerfs for Brigitte and buffs for Ana that the devs had talked about earlier that day. While some of these changes are live on the PTR, and I'll be showing off those in particular, there are actually some more which the devs have posted about, which will be coming to the PTR a little later on. So anyways, without further ado, let's jump on in and take a look. So first up, let's talk about Brigitte. Currently on the PTR, her Rally ultimate has been nerfed so that the maximum armor she and her allies receive from it has gone from 150 to 100. This will of course make her team a little less tanky during her ultimate, which I think is a pretty welcome change. Armor is a very powerful thing, especially when it's in large quantities like what she's capable of supplying. And given that we know the devs have been worried these past couple months about a potential heavy tank meta, thanks to Brigitte's introduction into competitive, this will obviously help alleviate that problem from ever arising. Now, the other main change that Brigitte will be getting, which at the time of me making this video isn't currently live on the PTR, is an increase in the cooldown on her shield bash. According to Jeff Goodman, we're raising the CD on her bash by 20%, 5 seconds to 6 seconds. We'll keep an eye on her to make sure she is still in a good place, as the last thing we want to do is over-nerf her. Now, I think this is a pretty important point that he puts there at the end. It seems like a lot of people are getting really hyped up about Brigitte being OP and calling for all these massive nerfs for her, but you gotta remember just how carefully everything is balanced in this game. Too big a nerf could easily make her the worst hero in the game, so I like that Blizzard is taking things in small increments. Increasing the cooldown from 5 seconds to 6 seconds seems like a good change. Maybe it has to be a little bit longer, but I think that's something that we'll find out eventually after we've had some time to test out the 6-second cooldown. The same applies to her Rally ultimate. Perhaps we'll see the armor addition reduced to even just 75 armor instead of 100, or maybe they'll decide to push it back up to something like 125. There's a lot of iterating that has to go on when it comes to these sort of changes, so don't expect Brigitte to end up being perfect within the immediate future, but hopefully we'll get a good balance for her sometime really soon. Moving on now, let's talk about Ana. Ana got a buff which I think is so important for her, and she really should have had this basically the whole time, which is that her biotic rifle darts no longer impact allies with full health. Now, you'll see how this kind of works with the gameplay footage I have in the background, but it's essentially what it says it is. If the ally you're shooting at has full health, the dart will go right through them so that you can either damage an enemy on the other side of them, or heal a different ally. This will be especially helpful when you have a lot of big tanks on your team, like Reinhardt, Roadhog, these big bodies that often get in the way if you're trying to heal someone smaller like, let's say, Genji. So this will without a doubt make her healing potential much more effective, and hopefully make her just at least a bit of a stronger pick in many scenarios. Now, the other change, which is currently on the PTR, is one that I personally didn't think we would ever end up seeing, but is incredibly nice nonetheless. And that's that in free-for-all deathmatch, Ana can now nano boost herself. That's right, as you can see in the footage right here, Ana is now capable of nano boosting herself, which I guess will just give her a little bit more damage and a little bit more damage resistance. Not many people play Ana in deathmatch to begin with, just from my experience at least. So I don't think this change is going to get a lot of utilization, but nonetheless, it's a nice thing to have in the game. Again, you cannot do this in quick play or competitive, you can only do it in deathmatch or, as you can see here, in the practice range. Now, beyond these changes, there is another buff for Ana, which will be coming to the PTR hopefully sometime soon. According to Jeff Goodman once again, we're changing Ana's magazine size from 10 to 14, which should help her maintain healing uptime and allow her to more carefully choose when to reload as opposed to just healing until the reload is forced upon you. So this is just a nice, simple change. It'll just allow her to heal more frequently because you'll have to reload less often, and so all around it's just a nice, simple buff. Now, before I wrap up this video, there was one more post by Jeff Goodman, which I thought was pretty interesting, and so I wanted to talk a little bit about it. I won't read it off entirely, but I'll have the text here on screen so you can read read it for yourself. Essentially what he's saying is that a lot of times people talk about heroes like Ana and point out things like their low mobility and low self-healing and say that that's a blatant weakness that needs to be changed in order to make the hero more balanced. Jeff counters this by saying that the point of Overwatch is that it's a team-based game. Certain heroes will have strengths and weaknesses, and the point of having different heroes overall is that they compensate for each other's weaknesses when they work together as a team. Even if Ana doesn't have the mobility to escape being dived by a Winston and a D.Va and a Tracer, that doesn't mean she isn't exceptionally strong in other scenarios, or maybe just needs to rely on her other teammates to help her when she's getting dived. I think this is absolutely a great way to focus the game, especially since, well, it's a team game. If every hero was essentially the same with just little sort of aesthetic changes or slight mechanical changes, I think that would actually be pretty boring. I like the idea of certain heroes being really good at one thing and really bad at another thing, and then having some other heroes which are a bit more balanced all around. I think that's an important way to keep the game diverse, which is what makes it so great in a lot of ways, I think. Now, of course, when you have an asymmetric game like this, it often makes it quite a bit more difficult to balance everything out, but I think that's a necessary concern just because of how great it is to have all these different team compositions that can work together to help each other out. Now, once again, this does require your team to all be working together, which more often than not doesn't actually seem to be the case, but I do definitely agree with Jeff Goodman here when he says that it's perfectly okay for certain heroes to have heavy weaknesses. Anyways, that'll do it for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Please be sure to leave your thoughts about anything I talked about here today down in the comments below. Do you think these Brigitte nerfs and Ana buffs are good, or do you want to see a bit more? As always, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and share it with a friend if you really liked it. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and turn on notifications to both help out my channel and keep up with all my future Overwatch content. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.